Welcome to the WoT Heat tier list for Season 1. So, we're going to be going over all the vehicles that are in Season 1 and kind of just where I place them. This tier list, unlike the other ones, will be based off of the vehicle's max level with max upgrades, so that you kind of understand what you're getting yourself into when you're using these vehicles. Starting off, we're going to be going over Kent and the XM190. Overall, I think this is a decent vehicle. It's not the greatest in terms of just what it can do, but it's always kind of reliable and it can always dish out damage. And with some of the higher grade upgrades, you can do a little bit more with this vehicle. The fast draw changes that you can get with the legendary and also with the epic module kind of give you some unique scenarios that you can play around with. Overall, I think it's a solid B tier. You could also consider this vehicle maybe high C tier, but overall I think it's a pretty decent B tier. Now for the ALVT, I still think this vehicle is S tier. The ability to have multiple builds is kind of just super cool. Like you can go the Zelius mod in order to get the faster reload, or the APHE mod so that you can constantly set people on fire. I do wish there was a little bit more variety with the grenades and the oil, but overall I do think this vehicle has a solid set of modules that it can come with, and also just being fully upgraded makes this vehicle a huge DPM machine. Now we're going to go move over to Reaper's tanks. So with the M60A1, I'm going to go ahead and put this in a C tier. It doesn't have the greatest modules when it comes to fully upgraded. There's nothing that makes this vehicle feel special with its upgraded modules. You do have access to different shell types like HE and canister, but canister's bad and HE just absolutely butchers your DPM output just because you can't hit crits anymore. I don't really recommend going that build path. It is a lot of fun to play sometimes, especially when you can get some cool rams off and stuff like that, but otherwise, it really is a one-show pony and doesn't have much else going for it other than its DPM and its ramming ability. I do think it's a solid C tier though, regardless, just due to the fact that it doesn't have any frontal crit zones, but it just lacks that oomph when you have it fully upgraded, so that's why I'm going to go ahead and set it in C tier. For the M60A2, I'm going to go ahead and drop this in A tier. I really enjoy using this vehicle when it is fully upgraded with heat. I will say, the only reason why this vehicle can't be S tier for me is just over the fact that it is a bit difficult to use in certain scenarios. The heat still has drop, and overall it is a good vehicle. It still has some great abilities with the 20mm and also the ATGM that sets people on fire, and the output on this vehicle is monstrous when you do have it fully upgraded. For me personally, I think this vehicle is S tier when fully upgraded, but for the majority of people I can understand why you would consider it A tier, just with the difficulty of using the heat shell on this vehicle when fully upgraded. When fully upgraded, I think the T62AV, man, it has some great modules. It has the ability to swap its main shell to heat. It has some good gun upgrades, and it does make the vehicle feel strong, and it also has some good ability upgrades like the Pyro Trail, but it doesn't have any good rocket upgrades or anything like that. Overall, I think I'm going to put it in B tier. Its kit, including the ultimate, I think kind of just sets it at a really solid B tier, maybe even A tier. Actually, I think I'm going to move it to A tier just with the ultimate and everything. Just the Raketa ultimate is a really good ultimate in this game. I personally don't think it's overpowered, but I do see where people are coming from when they do say that the ultimate is overpowered. So I'm going to go ahead and match that and say that this vehicle is definitely a solid A tier. Now, the Object 287, I also think this is another A tier vehicle, though its playstyle definitely feels very unique compared to a lot of vehicles in this game. It's definitely more of a flanker vehicle, and it is a vehicle that I do seem to have a lot of fun when playing. I do like the build paths with the option to go APHE or swap to AP. That gives fire damage status effects. I do think this is a very solid vehicle. It has some fun upgrades that you can play around with. It has a lot of module changes as well when you do get it fully upgraded, so you can have a variety of modules specifically for your actual barricade trap. And in overall, it's a very fun vehicle to play. I could see moving it down to B tier if the ultimate got nerfed, but I'm going to keep it at an A tier. For the Twister, I'm going to go ahead and drop the HSTVL in A tier. I have been playing this vehicle and I do enjoy it, but that doesn't mean that the vehicle is S tier. With the nerfs it got in between the closed beta and Season 1, I definitely feel the effects, and it's not as powerful as it was in the closed beta test. I think, in all honesty, that the actual recon probes are a little bit overblown in the water compared to what people see them for. Like, yes, they can be good, don't get me wrong, but I don't think the recon probes make this vehicle an S tier vehicle. Overall, solid A tier, has good damage output, and just overall very fun to play. Now, the HSTVL's brother, man, the M55A1. I just do not enjoy playing this vehicle at all. It's kind of saving grace is the APS, but let's just kind of talk about why I don't like this vehicle, and this is my personal opinion. Even then, if I wasn't biased against this vehicle, I think I could only place it in D tier, but I'm going to go with F tier for this vehicle. So, the reasoning behind that is just simply put, the actual APHE doesn't feel like it gives enough oomph, especially compared to the damages available in everything else in this game. Like, you have the ALVT, which can get a 2.9 second reload and, deal out like 1500 damage crits. But this vehicle, it has a, 3.7 second reload, but the problem with it is, its maximum crit damage to the ammo rack is only like 900, maybe 1000 if you're lucky, and its crit cone isn't the greatest, and there's just a lot of factors I don't like about it. I feel like its acceleration needs to be higher, it doesn't control that well at high speeds, its gun is punchy, and don't get me wrong, I just don't feel it's like the gun's strong enough. The canister rounds do almost equivalent damage as if you just shot someone in the ammo. I will say having the instant swap canister does feel nice, but the strongest ability on this vehicle is the ult, and that's shared with the HSTVL. It does 1000 to 1200 damage to a group of enemies. I understand that, but it's not unique about this vehicle. I also think the APS is getting to a stronger point, but it still just disappears from most vehicles in one shot, so it's not saving you all from that much. But due to the fact that it lasts longer, it does mean people have to shoot it in order to start dealing damage to you, which is a bonus to it. The XM1V, I think I'm going to go ahead and put this vehicle in A tier. I personally still think this vehicle is S tier, but just, it doesn't have as many things that I kind of get in other vehicles, specifically like the FV. I do think it's a very strong contender for S tier though, so I'm just going to kind of move it over here. It is very high A tier. Its crowd control deniability, its area denial is kind of just goated. I think the gun's great, it does well in all game modes, but it's superior when it comes to game modes like control and hardpoint. And that's one of the reasons why I place it so high. I actually, just kind of thinking about it, because it's like S tier in two of the modes, which are 5v5, I think I'm just going to move the vehicle up to S tier just because of the area deny. Overall, I could see an argument to dropping it down to A tier. Its DPM is pretty good, but it's not any crazy thing. And I think that's just another thing why I kind of put this vehicle at S tier, is it's just a consistent vehicle. It also has a variable kind of build path. You can kind of go a bunch of things on this vehicle and find success in what you build. Like, there's a bunch of mine options, there's a bunch of tankiness options, and overall I think it's a pretty good solid vehicle and has a plethora of upgrades to kind of suit it to your needs. M1E1, this is a strong vehicle. So there's a few builds that make this kind of overpowered, but essentially, to wrap it down to the point, I don't know if it's what I would consider truly overpowered, but going the module that increases your damage after you've survived X amount of damage is a really, really, really strong module This vehicle already has high, base damage and everything, but with that module, you can possibly one-shot Leos, kind of like in this instant here. It's like not many vehicles in the game, even with buffs, can one-shot a Leo like this. Sure, you have the Bradley ATGM or the Martyr mines that can one-shot Leos, but it is kind of crazy that you have this damage output on a defender. It's decently mobile. I feel like the APS is a good ability, especially with the fact that you can combo it with a minigun. It's definitely a very forward attacking defender, and overall, I think I just have to put it in S tier. It's very enjoyable to play. It's strong all over around. It has decent mobility, a good gun, good armor layout. Overall, I enjoy this vehicle, and I think it's a definite solid S tier. Also, in the same bracket, I think if it wasn't for some of the modules on, the M1 E1 being so strong, I think I could place the FV above it. But I think the M1 just has the speed, the mobility, the damage output, just from the get-go. Regardless, the utility, I think it's just a better option, especially with the APS compared to the actual Bastion on these two vehicles. Now, don't get me wrong, the FV with AP is a pretty solid vehicle, and I think when competitive comes out, using high explosive builds on the FV will kind of push it up to S tier in order to lock down enemies and just combo them with your team. But for now, I'm just going to keep the vehicle at A tier when it's fully maxed out. Honestly, I had a lot of fun playing this vehicle. I do say just having the extra long crit cone on the AP is also a fantastic thing on this vehicle. So this vehicle has a 1.75 meter crit cone, which allows it to get some funky crits off, and the fact that it has the ability to damage two modules at once means that if you have, a fuel tank and an ammo line stacked up together and you hit both, you're going to do the damage of the ammo instead of the fuel tank. The Bradley. I don't know. The Bradley's definitely very average overall. Maybe I would give it a B tier now that I've played it a lot more. The ATGMs are good. It's definitely a better long-range vehicle than I feel like the Leo is in some aspects. You can get this vehicle to crit for over 2,000 damage, meaning you can one-shot Leos with the ATGMs. The gun, I think the gun's actually pretty decent, even at long range. So the damage fall-off is not there at long range. There is no damage fall-off. And, you can dish out a lot of damage at long range. I do think where this vehicle does lack is modules. It just doesn't have that creative modules, in my opinion. Like, it doesn't have many variety. It doesn't have any, super specific module that's like, oh, you gotta get it on this vehicle. Overall, it's a fine vehicle. Don't get me wrong, but it's definitely low B tier, high C tier for me. So, I'm just gonna go ahead and set this vehicle in B tier. S tier for the Martyr. Just having 4 mines on the Martyr means that you can cover a point with 8 mines at a time. And if you're lucky with the placement of your mines, you can even have 12 at a time. This makes this vehicle very good for area denial. It has great, synergy with vehicles like the XM1V. The gun's okay. The ATGM HE is always reliable. It deals a pretty consistent 700 to 800 damage, even on non-penetrations. It is high explosive, so you won't be penetrating super often with the ATGM. The ability to apply status effects on the ATGM is also very nice. This is similar to the Bradley. The Bradley has that option too. The ability to have 4 to 8 mines out at a time that each can technically one-shot a Leo is just... there's so much value in that. It's kind of just why I gotta place it in S tier. Now, on to the Leo. So, I did play this vehicle a lot, and I will say I definitely had it grow on me a little bit, but it's still not overall that good. I think it's a low C tier, high D tier. I actually much prefer playing the Leo over the M55A1, in all honesty. I think with the trapping shot upgrades, you do get that hit of dopamine whenever you're able to combo it multiple times. Honestly, that is like the most fun aspect of this vehicle. I still think this vehicle is a little bit overblown, especially with the fact that, the range damage XP has been increased by quite a bit. And that does kind of just overinflate the scores that this vehicle gets. It's still very bad at close range, and you're kind of going to want to use your team as meat shields. If you're not near your team, you're most likely going to die, or you're sniping. And that's kind of just one thing with this vehicle, is when you're sniping and stuff, a lot of the times it can feel like you're not in control of the game, and I think that's the biggest reason why I dislike this vehicle so much, is you don't have as much of control over the game as you do in like every other vehicle. Like even in the M60A1, I feel like I have a little bit more control of the game than the Leo, but that's just kind of how I personally feel. The AMX, I'm going to go ahead and put the AMX in B tier. I still like to brawl in this vehicle, but there's a few things that I kind of wish to see happen to this. So I wish that the actual like top attack missiles had a higher shoot up range so that it felt like proper top attack instead of just, oh, it goes up 20 meters and then it just goes straight towards the target instead of actually trying to stay above the target until the very end. So on like maps like aircraft carrier, when people are hiding behind containers and stuff, I wish it would stay above the container until it actually got above the vehicle and then drop down. I understand that that's probably a bit difficult to kind of code in, but I don't know, I just feel like those missiles could be a little bit better. I feel like they've definitely gotten a decent nerf overall. With the changes to the shield, you definitely feel the changes to the shield since the closed beta, especially after playing for a month. Overall, I will say this vehicle is still pretty good. One thing I do wish this vehicle had was higher alpha damage, and I understand, you know, the reason why you can't have that too high is because it has heat. But one thing I've noticed with heat is even when hitting like crits and stuff, it's only like 1200 damage with heat unless you're rocking the ATGM. If you're rocking the ATGM heat, you can get like 1500 crits. But I wish the standard heat on this vehicle had like 1500 crits and not just the ATGM. I feel like the ATGM should, you know, have like 1700 crits, but make it more useful to keep the standard rounds on this vehicle. I will say, interestingly enough, when it comes to like 1v1s and stuff, you can very easily beat out like solo HSTVLs or solo M55A1s or solo Leos and stuff like that. It's very good in that aspect, but it suffers compared to vehicles like the XM190, the M60A2, the T62, the Object 287, stuff like that. It can do well against the Marder if the Marder hasn't placed its mines yet. Overall, I do think this vehicle could use a bit of a buff in just the top attack missiles, or if not the top attack missiles, increase the base damage, but not both of them at the same time. I do think the M55A1 definitely needs something. The Leo, it still needs, in my eyes, it needs a decent amount of stuff. Same with the M60A1, though the M60A1 could be relieved if it had more modules. Let's get into the important stuff. The new agent, Flare. So, Flare has two vehicles, the first one of which being the Leopard 2FK. The Leopard 2FK, I think this is a definite solid A tier if it stays where it is. If they do resolve kind of some of the ATGM wonkiness, I could see this vehicle easily being an S tier. The ultimate for Flare, God, the ultimate is so good. Some of the abilities on this vehicle aren't particularly used that often by me. Like the Feign Death, I think is a very good ability. I'm glad that they brought that back. But the system jamming one, I don't really use it that often. I just find it more of a waste of energy in my opinion. But I do think this vehicle is very fun. It does a lot of damage. So this damage is kind of what I feel like the AMX should do or the Leo should do. Ooh, man, it's a lot of damage. Like, you know, over 2,000 damage crits. It's nice to play. Especially when you get, you know, I think it's 3 ATGMs on this vehicle. I'll have some video kind of playing just to kind of show off this vehicle. Man, it's a fun vehicle to play. And the ultimate, the ability to swap back and forth between your clone or your proxy, as it's called on this vehicle, is such an interesting mechanic. And each of them technically have their own ammo on the vehicle, which means you can kind of shoot once on this vehicle, swap, shoot, swap, shoot, swap, shoot, swap, shoot. And one way you can also play it on games like Conquest or Kill Confirmed, where you're constantly moving around, is you can even like drop your proxy somewhere safe And then once you get low, you swap with your proxy, and now you're technically another full health vehicle. I like to feel like this vehicle's ultimate is kind of like Tracer, in that you can just kind of jump in between them. Or maybe a Sombra, I guess you could say, but with a physical body on the field instead. Now, my favorite vehicle of the new update, the Leopard 2KST. Man, this vehicle is fantastic. It uses heat as its primary ammo, and the build that I'm running on this vehicle, God, it makes this vehicle feel extremely lovely to play. And the fact that each of the proxies have their own magazines means that you're dishing out so much damage on this vehicle. I think it's 17 to 1800 crits with the heat on ammos. The invis is a super cool mechanic to kind of play around, and there's a lot of things that build upon that. I feel like there's a lot more synergy with this kit and the modules you can go compared to the Leopard 2 FK, but I feel like this vehicle uses the proxies so much better, and that's just me. I feel like this vehicle is a little bit faster. This vehicle definitely has more health, and I feel like I can brawl a lot more successfully in this vehicle compared to like the Leopard 2 FK. This is what I would have wanted the Leo to be, right? High damage heat, you can snipe, you can brawl. You can kind of do a lot of things in this vehicle. It might be my new main, in all honesty. This vehicle is very lovely to play. I will say it looks a bit strange, but just because it looks strange doesn't mean it's not strong. But yeah, that's the World of Tanks Heat tier list for Season 1. This is just a kind of a preview of what is to come in the update tomorrow. I will also be uploading a few more videos today, just kind of going over the vehicles, and also going over the battle pass. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you for watching, and if you did like the video, leave a like, and a subscribe would be greatly appreciated. Have a good one. Goodbye.